And at that joint sitting, Her Excellency Dame Pearlette Louise will deliver the throne speech. And on this beautiful day, I would like to remind all our viewers that you are tuned into the National Television Network. I am Alicia Ali from the Government Information Service, and joining me Nay, who is also with the matching jewelry and accessories to complement the entire outfit. And I think Her Excellency has kept that tradition alive, and it is something that we really look forward to every year.
We've also seen some beautiful hats worn by Honorable Emma Hippolyte and Honorable Alvina Reynolds.
And we also have Senator Paul as well. And we have a number of our guests with hats as well. I'm thinking I feel a little bit left out, Gina. I should have really worn my hat today. I will make it a point to one of these days bring my hat into the house.
Definitely. And we see that persons are awaiting the arrival of Her Excellency
and engaging in some fun banter. And in this technological age, it's so wonderful to see people still speaking to each other face to face, because
yes,
with technology, you have so many applications that you could use to message, or in this day and age, you're very busy, so email, and it's become a social norm to be on your phone. Why should we invite our school students to something like this? But I can tell you, it's quite impactful. And I'm speaking not only as somebody who's in the media and who does podcasts from Parliament, but as a former youth parliamentarian myself. I remember first coming into the chamber, it was so overwhelming, and it really did have an impact on me and an impact on where it is I saw myself. So it is important that we expose our young people to occasions such as this, them just where they are, where they want to go, and what they can be, because you never know who's going to represent you in this honorable chamber. It's in the lower house, the House of Assembly, or the upper house, which is the Senate.
And just as one of the things that, as we said earlier, makes us St. Lucian, in that we are unique in the formalities of our house, it is important for our young people to understand what all this tradition and formality is all about and what it represents.
And I'm happy they're taking an interest in it, because I was watching them during the proceedings, and I could see them
create so wonderful ambience.
And just going around the chamber, we can see many familiar faces, and I'm happy to see that the press secretary, Mrs. Jadia Jean-Pierre Emmanuel, is accompanied by her daughter, who is the president of the Senate's guests. He said, Alicia, make sure that I extended the invitation, because the Governor General has arrived, and the police commissioner, Vernon Foswa, will meet her as she exits the car.
And as we said earlier, Her Excellency Dame Pearlette Louise is always on time.
Yes, she is. Her Excellency is being greeted by the Commissioner of Police. And she will now walk to the podium, where the inspection of the guard will begin. Her Excellency is being briefed, and the police officers are being given their drills.
Vulnerable country in the world. Mr. President, Mr. Speaker, the World Bank has estimated that the total damage caused by the drought is in the amount of $267.76 million EC dollars, equivalent to 8.3% of St. Lucia's gross domestic product, our GDP. There is an equally sobering statistic. The cumulative impact of the losses of Thomas and the drought is estimated to amount to 2/5 of our annual economic output. And further, we lost many lives to Thomas and the drought, for whom families still mourn and friends still miss. Unquestionably, these large waves of misfortune have become amplified amidst the global ebbs of economic recession and our own fiscal challenges. These disasters have struck us at a time of acute economic vulnerability. Caribbean nations, then here was proof of the value of its existence. Many offered help without being asked or prompted. The government and people of Trinidad and Tobago were exceptional. So too was Little St. Kitts and Nevis, which contributed $1 million EC to our recovery and rehabilitation. Our sister island of Martinique, together the Republic of France, came to the rescue. Friends far and wide, from Sri Lanka and India in the east to Venezuela and Chile in the west, provided support. The government and people of the Republic of China, Taiwan, and those of the United Kingdom did not fail or disappoint us. We thank too our friends in Latin America, especially the government and people of Mexico, and our friends in Morocco. Other countries opted to give assistance, supporting and promoting personal responsibility that is grounded in core values and common respect. For instance, how can a state support your employment if you do not first show that you believe in hard and sensible work? What shall be its legacy? What great feats must it achieve? What great innovations must it provide for generations yet unborn? I discern great hope and confidence among our people, despite our troubles and travails. After 35 years as an independent nation, I see a freshness that suggests St. Lucians have begun to appreciate that we are one great national tree, of which we each are but different parts. From the literary and theater arts to the culinary arts, we witnessed fruits of greatness, and we celebrated these proudly during our independence anniversary celebrations. Even in the midst of all our challenges, we gladly welcome this cultural reawakening. Lucia, Mokadi, point garde, point précaution. En face, mauvais courant ça qui a bouleversé toute la mer économique et financière la terre. C'est soit nous continuer chicaner et puis y en a l'autre et puis néer ensemble. Eh bien, chamber la main à l'autre, y en a l'autre pour aider nous soit nager et bien flotter jusqu'à temps nous échouer à sous terre sec. Pays, c'est sans nous. Nous n'y des choix. Nous a tué lentement. Eh bien, nous a cherché dérision Bali vitement. Et ce n'est pas pour dire nous pas savons quelle qualité dérision pays a besoin. Unions, businesses, non-governmental organizations, indeed everywhere that decisions are made. Secondly, our widespread unemployment will only go away if we are globally competitive and develop an export-driven economy. Sir Arthur Lewis, as far the policies of my government will be fashioned towards meeting these challenges. They will be geared towards achieving a vision for St. Lucia that is inclusive, equitable, and progressive. However, policies are not magical. They do not result in instant gratification. They are even painful at times. But the end result will be worth more in the long run than the sacrifice today. On a previous occasion, my government emphasized that the situation that confronts us, the new realities that we face, compel us to revisit ideas we once discarded as unthinkable. We may well have to venture down new paths, including paths we loathed and repudiated, that will serve our own strategic objectives as defined by us for ourselves. We will always appreciate the friends that have been there for us and by our side in the past. But we have learned that we can no longer depend solely on them. It is for this reason that my government will continue to be creative and bold in its endeavors to find new sources of support that are needed for the creation of employment and to promote the development of St. Lucia. We need financing to build roads, schools, bridges, health centers, and playing fields. We simply cannot depend on the traditional sources. We are on our own. The simple, unvarnished truth is that we need major changes in direction. Mr. President, Mr. Speaker, I wish to cite two examples of our country and demonstrate a commitment to it. The time has arrived for us to examine the case of defining and broadening the framework under which citizenship might be offered as part of investing in St. Lucia. And if we think that it is a viable option, then under what circumstances should we do so? So, Mr. President, Mr. Speaker, I am pleased to announce that my government will appoint a special task force comprising persons from various sectors, from the opposition, the private sector, the trade unions, and non-governmental organizations, to examine the programs of other countries and to make recommendations for the consideration of Cabinet. It is my government's hope that this matter will be addressed with urgency during the which was built under this bold mechanism is the building housing the Ministry of Infrastructure, Port Services and Transport at Union. Next year, the lease payments will be completed and the building will revert to the full ownership of St. Lucia. My government cites this example to indicate that greater use will be made of such mechanisms to secure greater investment in the public sector to drive the economy. My government will therefore move to develop partnerships with the private sector to finance the construction of badly needed infrastructure, including the terminal building at Huronora International Airport and new government offices in Casfields. My government will provide further details of its approach in its budgetary statement. Mr. St. Lucia and 4 other countries also parties to the agreement. The treaty establishing the Caribbean Court of Justice is one such international agreement. Mr. President, Mr. Speaker, this is of course not the occasion to recite all the arguments why such a step is so compelling at this time. Suffice it to say that the position of my government is captured succinctly in this statement by His Lordship, Mr. Michael de la Bastide, the former Chief Justice of Trinidad and Tobago, and later President of the Caribbean Court of Justice. His Lordship said, and I quote, "It is inconsistent with the status of an independent, understood and respected the passions surrounding the issue, and opted as a first step to seek authoritative advice from the OECS Court of Appeal. This was done by way of a reference by the Attorney General with the approval of Cabinet to the Court, inviting it to interpret the provisions of the Constitution which were in contention. Understandably, opinion was divided. The Court had the opportunity to hear arguments from both sides, those who supported the view that there was an error and those who felt that there was no error at all. In the end, a majority of the Court ruled that there was indeed an error in the Constitution, and the court was authorized to correct the error. My government will therefore follow the lead of the Commonwealth of Dominica and proceed pursuant to Section 41(7) of our Constitution to advise Her Majesty's government operate, where development performance is increasingly related to the quality of the human resource available. Best utilization of that resource has become one of the main priorities of national governments. Tertiary education is seen to have the potential to substantially enhance that human resource quality, raising it to a point where it can initiate and sustain essential economic and social development. Of no less significance is the role that tertiary education is perceived to play in enhancing individual creativity and in improving its citizens' level of participation in the social and cultural development of his or her country. This necessary expansion, however, poses a particular dilemma for small island developing states like St. Lucia. And that dilemma is to offer and indeed expand its certificate, diploma, associate degree, and continuing education programming. In so doing, it will remain true to its original mandate of being responsive and inclusive without becoming financially extravagant and imprudent. It is this mandate that will inform the type of institution that will emerge from these discussions during the course of the next few years. The model that is being currently considered is the university college model, which can offer a range of programs in the academic, technical, and vocational areas at the certificate, diploma, and degree levels, since it is obvious that St. Lucia cannot fund or sustain two separate tertiary level institutions. The upgrading of the Sir Arthur Lewis Community College to a university college will help it meet that challenge. Are punctuated with generous translations in Creole. We celebrate International Creole Day in color, with great pride and fanfare. Yet, we have not fashioned a national policy on Creole. Why have we not done so? The issue of language, though, goes beyond Creole. The truth is, if our people are to navigate this new and extraordinary world, they will require competence in at least one foreign language. We must prepare our people to be citizens of the world, not just of our little St. Lucia. Our geography also speaks for us. Some of our immediate neighbors are French overseas departments and Latin America. Unless we improve our competence in Spanish, for example, to the Companies Act and the Business Names Act. As an interim measure and pending the enactment of a new Fiscal Incentives Act, amendments will be made to the Extant Act to allow investment in services to qualify for incentives. My government will also work towards enhancing the framework for intellectual property, and for that purpose will finalize its patent regulations. This will widen our revenue base and increase our competitive edge. My government will continue to emphasize good governance practices in support of our business sector, both within the private and public sectors. As part of this process, Parliament will consider new legislation to govern public procurement. My government will move ahead with the establishment of an open ship registry. This will help to expand the linkages between sectors in the economy. This requires that St. Lucia accede special attention given to low and medium income housing. We must also continue our efforts to address unplanned developments and rationalize land use. In giving consideration to this matter, it will be necessary to restructure our approach to the utilization of public or crown lands. And for that purpose, we intend to enact a National Land Development Corporation bill. Invest St. Lucia will no longer be engaged in settling disputes in communities and among families. Its mission, as defined by Parliament, will be investment promotion and facilitation. In furtherance of our crime-fighting efforts, we must enhance our ability to identifying and confiscating proceeds generated from criminal activity. Therefore, my government will enact a comprehensive proceeds of crime bill. Pour chichile, pour vie mette à sous les pieds. En ces mois qui vont venir, c'est décision ça là qui a commencé pour un coup. Mais c'est faut nous accepter que ces démarches là, c'est pas aujourd'hui pour demain. Il prend temps avant de réussir. Quand ça pas couiller la mort trop vite. Patience, participation, encouragement, responsabilité personnelle. C'est ça qui a mené ce changement nous besoin. À part de l'économie, le gouvernement qui travaille sur l'autre pilote du pays. En ligne de la loi, il a pris des démarches pour remplacer le tribunal d'appel d'Angleterre, ça nous connaît comme Privy Council, par tribunal justice Caraïbe, en anglais, the Caribbean Court of Justice. Pourtant, dernier appel qui a concerné matière commerciale, civile et criminelle. Le gouvernement voulait prendre décision ça là. Et puis collège Kaini pour apprendre à parler au moins une langue étrangère. Et puis, créole nous-mêmes. Il a passé là pour nous décider place là, créole là doit être mis en pays. Créole là tout partout. Nous avons parlé créole, nous avons dansé créole, nous avons mangé créole. Journée créole en tout petit coin Saint-Lucie et puis tout côté l'autre pays où qu'a joindre Saint-Lucien. Mais il semble comme si jusqu'ici nous t'es pas formalisé. Mais ça a changé tout de suite parce que le gouvernement a supporté des démarches pour articuler clairement place là, il a encouragé peuple là, bail créole là, un système d'éducation, en culture et puis en société pays. L'année plusieurs l'autre démarche gouvernement qui a entamé durant la session parlementaire pour consolider l'économie pays, pour encourager l'investissement, pour améliorer et avancer les conditions entreprises en pays. Mostly, we must also honor our heroes and heroines who remain with us still by God's grace. In that light, this year, my government will embark on a project that will seek to marry urban renewal with the artistic and creative genius of the Walcott family. This will be centered around the community where this cultural awakening all began. That is, near Grass Street in Castries. Mr. President, Mr. Speaker, very often we stigmatize certain places at our own peril. We really ought to desist from the labeling of communities as ghettos, because these places created geniuses and raised great families. But over the years, we have allowed them to wane and become run over as staging areas for unsavory pursuits. The streets around Upper Chaussee Road have become home to many vacant buildings and lost economic opportunity. My government will seek to energize this space by tying it more to the broader economic activity of Castries. There was a dream that art could free men, that it could empower men, that it could employ men. And so, we can no longer encourage enclave communities like this in our capital city, but rather create opportunities for art to reign in these areas once more. We deserve a place where citizen and visitor alike can pay homage to the greatness of the Walcotts. Trouver manière pour célébrer ces deux Saint-Luciens salins, pour l'honneur de porter le pays. Mais les autres qui étaient plus jeunes, toujours passé défunt M. Simmons et bien défunt Arthur Louis, qui vivent toujours par la grâce de Dieu qu'il nous faut honorer. Il y en a dans c'est honorable Derrick Walcott. Pour honorer M. Walcott, pour honorer Jimoy Roddy et puis ma maman, teacher Alex, le gouvernement qui a commencé l'année là un projet qui a eu et puis honorable Derrick Walcott, aussi bien et puis les habitants de la Rizebla pour entamer le projet ça là par le gouvernement. C'est ces qualités projet ça là moi a voulu implémenter tout au niveau du pays pour honorer ces gens parmi nous qui bâtit fondation à ce qui nous a continué à bâtir pays natal. Moun ko Dunstan et puis Gav Saint-Thomé, Défense par Saint-Hélène, Miss Bouti, Ramon Poléon, Florita Maki et puis plusieurs d'autres tout au niveau du pays. C'est pour nous honorer, pas seulement pour les présents, mais pour ces générations qui suivent nous. Parce que, bien des fois, c'est ça seulement nous ni pour quitter Bayo comme héritage et patrimoine. From Parliament of St. Lucia. I thank you.